Hello and welcome to Lunch with Lee. I'm your host Shane Lee. Today on the show, Steve Jack Small, a former New South Wales player and coach and a strong left-hand opening batsman. Playing 90 first-class matches, scoring 5,000 runs and winning 3 Sheffield Shields and 2 one-day domestic comps for New South Wales. Post-career, he's been a big driver in past players' welfare at the Baggy Blues and is a passionate rugby league supporter. Hey, Jack.
G'day, Shano. What an introduction. Thanks, mate.
Mate, very good. Well, I'll tell you what, this guy here's got some stats. Terry Barbar Lamb, a former New South Wales Australian Rugby League player, playing 350 first-grade matches, scoring 1,442 points, 164 tries. Wow. For both the Western Suburbs and Canterbury Leagues football clubs. He's a 3-time premiership player, Dally M medal winner, Rothman medalist, won the Dally M 5 8 of the year 3 times. He's named captain of Canterbury's greatest ever team and an inductee in the Rugby League Hall of Fame and the greatest backer-upper of all time. Hey, Bubba?
Hello, mate. How are you? Graham Hughes made that word up. Yeah, he did. Backer-upper.
Backer-upper.
Yeah.
Well, mate, I don't know if you remember this. Many years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting you, mate. I love watching you play when I was a bit younger. And I've got a photo at home that sits in my bar. Now, I'm pretty good on the piss. And you're referred to as the greatest backer-upper. And under the photo, I've got a little tag that says, "Who's the best backer-upper?"
Ah.
Yeah.
I don't get hangovers.
I know. And I found out you could drink piss as well, so you win.
Yeah. I used to get them.
Did you?
When I drank vodka. Now I drink beer and vodka. So I don't get hangovers anymore.
Absolute genius. And Jack, mate, you were there New South Wales cricket when I first started as a young, I think I was in the squad when I was 17. I played when I was 18. And I remember going to one of my first training sessions and you scared the shit out of me. We did a run around Centennial Park, I think it was, and you said to me, "I'm an old bloke, and if I fucking beat you, you'll never play again." You remember that?
Yeah, there were some big ones out there around. And we were sort of brought up by the sheriff, Brian Hollis. Remember the old trainer for Manly? Yep. He used to be big on the Centennial Park run, especially you made sure you earn your calories, so to speak.
Yeah.
So then we earn our beers and we could go back to the Dolphin, mate, and have a couple of beers after training. It was great.
Mate, I remember going to Centennial Park as well.
Yeah.
When I was at Western Suburbs, my first year.
Yep.
And went to training, big session, and John Donnelly beat me home in the run.
Wow.
And I said, and I didn't see him go past me or anything. He took $20 with him and got a cab. That's true. And got a cab and I went, "How'd you get past me, Dad?" And I thought I was pretty fit. He got me with a taxi.
Before Uber as well, is it genius?
Yeah, it was too.
Hey, Jack, I was going to ask you about some of your achievements, but you formed a really good relationship with Mark Taylor, and I saw some of those stats here. I don't know how many 100-run partnerships you two put on, but it was back in the day. I remember before I made the New South Wales side, I think it was a McDonald's Cup, which is like the Mercantile Mutual. It's our one-day domestic competition, and you used to use a really big, heavy bat and used to smash the ball everywhere. Do you wish you were around when T20 had started? Or
Well, Shane, they said I was going to be a Magic T20 player. And everyone keeps saying to me, you'd be a multi-millionaire and all this sort of stuff. Because I never batted for longer than 20 overs back then, mate. So you asked Tubby that. But no, we had a good relationship, Mark Taylor and I. We sort of hit it off. We hit together when I think he was 20 and I was 30. And I was sort of a second coming for me, because I sort of had my chance. Back in the day, I sort of tried to be a footballer, tried to be a cricketer, and, in the 70s. So I went through those eras, and as Bar will tell you, I couldn't tackle, so the football wasn't going to last long.
I don't know anything about that. No, nothing about it.
Well, I broke my arms.
So 350 first-grade games. I think you played 415 first-class matches overall. It was a lot of football. What was it like when you first started? Like, you played in one of the toughest eras.
Yeah, Western Suburbs with Roy Masters. I went there to play with Tom Rodonicus, Les Boyd and Graham O'Grady.
Jesus.
Got a contract. They left to go to Manly and Newtown and didn't get to play with them. Played against them, but didn't get to play with them. And that would have been part of my life, playing with Tommy and Graham O'Grady.
And concussion's a big thing now in footy, right? You're looking at the players saying they were arguing under their sort of collective bargaining agreement. How do we... you got 1 year after you finish retirement to get all your medical surgery done.
Oh, right.
I want to ask you, how's your body? Have you had repercussions? Because not only did you knock a few people out, I think Ellery Hanley fell over a fucking sprinkler.
Yeah, no, 100% he did. And we were sitting here in '88, and a mate of ours, Russell Proudfoot, gave me a lift home because I couldn't. Oh no, that was '94. Sorry, so I've had a few head knocks because I mixed them up then. So I got him. Right on the chin, I got him.
But also, you knocked out yourself. Like, I think it was with Meninga.
I knocked out myself. No, Mal knocked me out then. In '94. Yep. And then that's when Russell Proudfoot took me home. Probably about would have been 10 o'clock or something like that.
And you're a proud New South Welshman. Is it just me? Did Mal Meninga have a broken arm for about 12 years there? He had a plaster cast on his arm for 12 years.
He broke it a couple of times. Yeah, he did.
What, on your jaw?
Probably one of them. But he did break it a couple of times, one on the post and a couple of other times, after that. Now,
I want to ask you both, because the era that you both played in, and we're talking about this just off air before, Jack, about, when I started it was semi-professional, and I always say I put the semi in professional, but and then I sort of played from 95 onwards, it was more professional, we got paid a little bit better. But the memories of some of the mad teammates that I came into that New South Wales change room, what was it like playing with the likes of Mike Whitney and Greg Matthews and these boys?
Oh, it was wild, mate. It was wild times. It was make sure you get everything right to start with, and then you party at the end of it. The celebrations. But I shared the back corner with Roy, with Mike Whitney, which is one of the thrills of my life because he's a passionate rugby. As you can tell, I'm a mad rugby league man, Canterbury man too. And Roy was a South Sydney man, so we really hit it off. He remembers his early days going up Redfern Oval with his old man. I was at Belmore Oval, and then we end up in the dressing room at the SCG. How good. And then some of them Shield finals, I played in 5 of those.
Yeah.
I think there was about 6 of us that played in 5 of them, and we won 3. The 3 we won at the cricket ground. I've been lucky enough not to lose a game outright on the SCG. So
wow, is that true?
That's true. Never lost a game, and I played 1 game on there or 2 games on there for Tassie. So it's a bit of a tricky one.
I thought you were strange.
Yeah,
Thanks, we're both very lucky to play in an era where we did win a lot, which is lucky. But there's a lot of players that go through sport and never win anything, right?
Yeah,
they can still be a really good player.
Look at all the Balmain players.
I know.
Canterbury with us.
Yep.
Blocker, Benny, Wayne Pearce, some of the great players of our era, and never won a comp.
Well, one of the things that was quite, we had a CEO you remember, or a secretary in Bob Radford.
Yes.
And I remember down there, and it was in I forget the name of where the Cricketers Club was, where they used to Barrack Street.
Yeah.
They used to keep the Sheffield Shield in there. And I said to him, mate, I've retired now, 92-3. I said, is it okay if I take the Sheffield Shield home for a barbecue? And he said, no problem, Jack. He said, but make sure you don't bloody well lose it.
Did you take it home?
Yep. Went and picked it up in the back of the station wagon. Took it home. We all had our photos taken with it around the Barbie and all the rest of it. Now they've got armoured guards around.
How big was it, Jack?
Very big.
Yeah, really? Wow.
Massive.
It wasn't as heavy as the Winfield Cup you lifted up over your head, but it was big.
I think you might have put something else in the back of your ute that day too. There's a bench there that Bradman sat on, I reckon.
Yeah, I think that
allegedly
that found its way when they were going to. I think they were going to toss it in the tip.
Yeah.
They were going to move all that stuff out of the the legs and that are pretty wonky. They couldn't sit on it now, but maybe it should go back there at some stage one of the
keep it.
The other areas.
and Terry, some of the real tough guys you played with, in your opinion, who was the toughest and greatest player you played with?
Oh, it's a different tough, I think. Yeah. Players went out there to knock people's heads off and things like that, but Jeff Robinson's got to be one of them. He just took the ball up, straight up the middle, and he's crook at the moment too, Robbo.
Is he?
Yeah, he's got throat cancer. So, but he's one of the toughest. Jason Hetherington, later in my career, came through. He's a real country boy, and he spoke like a country person. He's a terrific person. Great people. But Peter Kelly was pretty tough as well. Chris Mortimer, for example.
Yeah.
Chris Mortimer, Andrew Farrer. In the centres, they used to have a competition every week who could bash their centre against the other centre.
Wow.
The competition, that's what it was for.
Was there any player you come against in your time that you thought, in your own mind, and they might have a different opinion, that he's got my measure at all? Because it didn't appear that way from watching you play.
Oh, I think if you went out like that, you'd panic a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd probably put Wally Lewis in that category because
genius, yeah.
Wally was a king, you know. He was a king because he could fight. It wasn't about being a great footballer. He could fight, Wally. So, So that's what I heard, or other things. He
could scrap.
We could scrap, but he was a bit of a player too, I think.
Now, talk about scrap. So I love this story, Jack, that I was just made New South Wales career captain, and I think you took on the coaching role for New South Wales. So you were the coach, I was the captain, I think, and you were still playing grade cricket. And you were playing for Bankstown, I'm playing for Mossman, and I'm open to bowling against you, the new coach. And I decided to bounce you, and I broke your arm. You called me quite a few things on the field, and then they took you off, and then 4 overs later, you've gone off to Bankstown Hospital. You're waiting I think you sent your wife Jeanette to go and get a 6-pack of beers because the wait was going to be so long. I slipped over 5 overs later, did my ankle, and was wheeled into the same emergency room.
One of the greatest days of my life, Shane.
And then you had a big smile on your face and you called your wife and said, they're just well Shane in, better get an extra 6-pack.
That was a good story, that one, Shane. Yeah, it was a little green stick fracture of the wrist. And I actually spent a bit of time with Bar after that because Stephen came back and captained the team for the 6 weeks that I was missing. But thanks for that. But that was a great memory because...
Yeah, it was.
I think I jumped as high as when Bar scored a couple of his tries when I saw you coming around the corner in your wheelchair.
Karma.
I said, yes, there is justice.
Was it at Bankstown Oval, was it?
Bankstown
Oval, right, yeah.
Bankstown Hospital.
Yes.
And we sat there for it's probably 4 or 5 hours waiting to get looked at by the medics. But
Jeanette said to say that they were refreshments, they weren't beers.
They were nice cold beers actually. So thanks, Jeanette, for that one. Hey, and I was going to ask you too. We used to go up to Queensland, and prior to Queensland winning Sheffield Shield '95, the wicket used to be that green. Then we'd go out before the day's play and go, let's have a look at the wicket. Walk out and go, where the fuck's the wicket?
That's right.
Now, and Tubby always says, I spoke to Tubby before this, but Tubby reckons that a few times when he's batting with you during that period when they had Tasler and Rackerman and McDermott, at least fast bowlers, the ball was halfway down the wicket and he reckons you were screaming already before it hit you.
I knew where it was coming.
Yeah.
When you got about 4 or 5 ice packs lined up in the dressing room before you go out to bat, that's a bit of a worry. You know, Dougie Walters just leave his cigarette there just in case he was back to finish it. But no, they were tough. They were tough days, mate. We were 5 for 5.
You were a bad bruiser as well.
I was a bad bruiser, and I wasn't as nimble on my feet, and neither was Tubby. I mean, he used to come in whinging at the Gabba when the old dog track was around it because he says, "Oh, your mate Billy, he bowls you half volleys, and he tries to bump me." Like that wasn't the case. He reckons we used to sidle up. You know, they used to go in the dressing room and have a beer.
Yep.
And then they'd come in when we were fielding and all that sort of stuff. Well, McDermott used to make a line for me, and we got on pretty good. So he reckons he used to bowl half volleys on purpose, or that was.
Well, you try to hurt your mates, don't you? So there you go.
There you go. Hey, and I was looking at doing my research for this, Terry. Looked over some old pictures of you, talking about bruises. There weren't many pictures where you weren't covered in blood or your eye wasn't cut open or like. How did you wake up next morning? Honestly, you just get used to it, or
you don't.
It's how mental is it versus physical? When you next day you got to back up.
Well, I used to work for Big Ben Pies at that stage.
Right.
I got up at 3-4 o'clock in the morning and go drive a truck out and deliver pies and sausage rolls and cakes and them days, and that was easy. You know, it's just what you did and look after your family.
Do you think that keeps you grounded a bit too?
I think where you get brought up makes you grounded, and people you hang around, and you go to lunch with Jimmy and Theo over there at the Thai Pack restaurant with Jack and that. And fantastic days. Then we go across Chazzo Pub and have a few extras.
Now, big raps this year on the Canterbury Bulldogs and how they're going to go. I think they've got a fantastic coach in Cam Serraldo. I think they're going to do well. I think they've recruited well. How do you think they'll go this year, and will they finish the top 8? Yeah,
I think they'll finish the top 8, and I said that way earlier than before we got our players.
You did. You said 2022, you said this.
Serraldo cares about people. When he talks to you, he talks to you, and whatever you say, he cares about what you says, and his conversation's fantastic. He's a beautiful person, really good person, and as tall as Willie Mason.
Is he?
Oh, well, I sat next to him once, and when I first met him,
Can't be as thick.
well, I'm not commenting. And I sat next to him, and we were talking and everything. Then he stood up, and I asked him to sit back down, so I could stand up, and I was the same height as him.
Wow.
Yeah, he's 6'4", 6'5", something like that. So.
I think he had a promising career himself, didn't he, when he was a young
Yeah, he did.
fella?
I think he done his leg at one stage.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but good man. The players we bought, Gus has bought at this stage with the club. He's right out there, spending some money, and I think
I think I'll do well. You reckon I'll go well, Jack?
Oh, for sure, mate.
Yeah.
I think we're building towards that. If it's not next year, it'll be the year after, with the talent that we've got coming. But more importantly, they're setting up the pathways again, getting stuck into the juniors. I think you've got to have that base.
Big time.
Yeah, but you don't buy a team. It looks like we're buying a team. You build a team, not buy one. So that's what we're doing. We're building a team.
And does Canterbury have a lot of juniors?
Yeah, we've got enough juniors, but not as big as Penrith. That's huge out there.
It's going to be hard to compete against that for any other team, isn't it?
Not many clubs have got a big junior thing. Parramatta are quite small at the moment too.
Right.
They've joined up with Canterbury between the 16s and A grade. So, not too many clubs have got them. Well, Manly got none. Oh, no.
Manly,
Roosters haven't got any. They're up the Central Coast with
Roosters got Nick Politis.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That's what I got.
There's a recruitment strategy.
Yeah. Sit down here, son. A couple of years, you'll be right.
The Canterbury boys also, Shano, have the ambassadors, which is their past players, alumni. Basically, the men of league before the men of league.
Okay.
And they do a fantastic job with Phil Young and Gary Hughes, and they have the greatest grand final lunch you'll ever have.
Yep, Bankstown Sports Club.
And the footy club and the leagues club support them to the hilt, and we're rapt to be on board with them.
Terry, I want to ask you about your time as a coach, and I'm really intrigued with this question because you were what I would term an instinctive player.
Yep.
And I always wonder, instinctive people, how do you coach that? Did you find that you can't, can you?
No.
Did you find that really challenging? Because you would just be in the right spot at the right time, right? All the time.
I learned to read my players as well.
Yeah.
How
do you coach that? You can't do it,
can you? Coach it. No. I went from a club at Canterbury, the Bulldogs, who built their team and their players and all that, and then I go to West Tigers, who have just started. I think Wayne Pearce had them the year before. I went over and got them. Our club already had people involved with everywhere.
Yeah.
Especially a good reserve grade team in that. And West Tigers have Balmain and Western Suburbs. And it was just, mate, I don't think I was good enough to coach there. That's fine. I was a reserve grade coach, and that was it.
How do you and you coached one of the greats in my eyes, Hopewadi.
Yeah, Hopper. Yeah.
Like, he should have not been a fool. He should have been a urologist.
I don't even know what that is.
Got something to do with your finger on your prostate.
I know. Yeah. I've had it checked too. Me and Jack got something in common.
Yeah. one of my best mates, and you know him, Martin Haywood, who played New South Wales, and he got a letter in the post when I was living with him saying you should get your prostate checked, and he went 4 times in a row, and the girl said, the doctor said, I think you're okay, Martin. No need to come back again to next week. Sorry, Moose.
Oh, he's the best.
On coaching, Jack, I want to ask you about that because you're a guy, when you played, you're so passionate. You're a blue through and through. When you coached and then you do all the preparation, you send the team out, you got to sit back. How they do well? How did you find that? That would done your head in for sure.
It was a nightmare. Well, Greg Chappell was coaching at the time, South Australia, and he asked me when we were in Adelaide. He said, "Do you find yourself going to sleep at 3:30 in the afternoon because you ride every ball, and you're in bed by 7:30 at night? Unless I'm in with you blokes and I'm going at 25
I can't see that.
When we got into serious trouble." It really made me struggle when I couldn't do anything about it after taking them out there. But in saying that, the way we prepared teams in those days was, and we had so many internationals in and out of the team. You guys, when you first came in, you didn't have the luxury of playing with the with the likes of the test players
Yes.
all the time. And Bob Simpson was probably the guru, you know, and made sure we had a good fielding team. And then taken over by probably the best coach I had was Steve Rickson, you know.
Yeah, Stuff was a genius.
He's a genius, and his formula always worked, you know, kept everybody on their toes. But, very tiring, Shane.
Well, I understand when you're dealing with some pretty juvenile kids, me included sometimes. Terry, I was going to ask you, so 350 games, what motivated you in the end? What kept you up to keep coming back and showing up day in, day out, do you think? If you had to pick one thing.
You got to remember when I started in 1980 at Western Suburbs and I go to Canterbury and win the grand final, that's what made me go.
Yeah.
I never won a grand final when I was a junior.
Okay.
So I come to Canterbury and win a grand final in 84. And then in the 90s, virtually we had a full team leave the club. They went to Western Suburbs, Manly, you know, all the, you know, Dim Dimmick and all that went to West. Sorry, Joey Thomas, Langmack, Peter Kelly and that went to Penrith. So we had probably 12 players leave and all these young kids come through with Jimmy Dimmick, Darren Britt, Jason Smith, Dean Pay, all these kids coming through. So that was, say, 91. And they won the comp that year in under 23. So Bullfrog said, we'll get rid of the older players and we'll look after these kids. And we won a comp in 4 years.
Fantastic.
So 91, 93 we won the minor premiers. 94 we lost the grand final against Canberra. And 95 we won the comp against Manly. Yeah. So the young kids keep me going.
Yeah. What was your driver, Jack? What motivated you to get up those early winter mornings to do the pre-seasons?
Yeah, mate, I just wanted to prove that I could do it at that level. Okay. You know, when I first came in 1978, 79, World Series was on. So, you know, and to get into the New South Wales team, it was really difficult. You know, I took Peter Tui's place. Alan Border was in the team. He played the next test match. I was debuted in Melbourne. Only got a taste of it, 2 games, then out. Then in 81, I played 1 game. I was making 800-900 runs a year.
Yeah.
Then I got 1 game against New Zealand. I got 1 bat because Rick McCosker and Trevor Chappell made 150 each against the Kiwis. So I got a little bat in the second innings and got 20 odd not out. And then Tassie rang up and I went down there. Didn't do that great for them. Came back when Daiso and Smithy went off to South Africa, and Rick retired. And that's when Taylor and I formed our little partnership, and we equaled Bradman and Kipax with the 11 century stands. Yeah.
Amazing, mate. I ask every guest that comes on lunch with these same question. I ask you first, Terry. A young boy or girl wants to become a professional sportsman or a rugby league player. What advice would you give them?
Patience.
Don't
run in. I've got a nephew that's playing for the Sydney Roosters up the Central Coast, and he just wants to be a rugby league player. But patience, don't drink, don't smoke, give yourself a chance, give your body a chance to be the best you can. And if that doesn't work out, then go and have a drink in that later on. Because we're all big drinkers. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a lot of fun. But when you're younger and trying to work out,
do you think you might have won 6 premierships if you didn't drink? No, but I have to think about that myself. Like if we're different, but I don't know, it's different times and made us relax and whatever. But
everybody could be a better player. And I used to get half drunk on Saturday night before a game, and of course I couldn't sleep.
Okay.
Of course, I'd be all up all night thinking about the game, so I started drinking, half a bottle of vodka, things like that, and I'd have a good sleep and get up and have a go.
Yeah, the match every time. Jack, a young boy or girl wants to go into the world of cricket. What advice would you give them?
Oh, make sure you got a good balance. So you balance in your school. Your other hobbies, make sure you have hobbies outside cricket. Maybe you might play another sport or you might do something else. And just keep it nice and level because, get yourself a career behind it and you'll enjoy your sport a lot more. I think when you throw all your eggs in the one basket, it can be pretty harrowing and, plays with your head a little bit. So, keep it nice and balanced and have a lot of fun.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming on lunch with Lee. I know you two. We're here at Canterbury Leagues Club. We're in the heart of Bulldog territory, that's why I wore the blue shirt. I didn't want to be singled out.
Well done, Shane. Impressive.
And I remember, Jack, flying in. We were coming back from a match in South Australia. As we were flying in over Sydney, you said, "Hey, look down there," and you pointed at all those houses. You said, "Shane, you represent every one of those." I still remember that. Pretty special. You're a legend of a bloke. Love you, Jack.
Thanks,
and Terry, mate, you're one of the greatest.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, boys.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
On your Shana.
Well done.
Thanks, Jack.
That's it for Lunch with Lee this week. A big thank you goes out to our guests, Steve Small and Terry Lamb. Thanks to Canterbury Leagues for having us here today. And thank you to our sponsors, Barclay Pierce Capital, Elite Bet and O'Brien Beer. Make sure you hit follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. And do us a favour, hit 5 stars. And if you're passionate, please leave a review. And come check us out on Instagram at I'm at Lunch with Lee. Our official Lunch with Lee photography was done by Felicity Kelly. You can find her on Instagram at Felicity Kelly Portraits. And once again, thanks to our producer, Dan McHugh. We'll be back soon to talk with some more legends about sport, music and business on another cracking episode of Lunch with Lee. We'll see you then.